Thanks for choosing us. We won't forgive them. That's the stern warning from chiefs in host communities of Ghana's first lithium mine in the central region to Parliament. More than 100 workers have been sent home following a 2-year delay in ratifying the mining lease. Last week, a revised agreement was finally laid before Parliament after the previous House failed to pass it. Among those affected is Justice Agri, whose daughter and her education has been on hold for 2 years because he cannot afford her college fees. Emmanuel Jivenu has more in the second episode of our series Hope on Pause, the Lithium Promise.
Hello,
Justice Agri is one of more than 100 workers laid off. Casualties of Parliament's delay in rectifying the Ewoya lithium project. He is a father of 8, and the collapse of this job is the collapse of his entire household. Before he was sent home, Justice had risen from roadside weeding to become a semi-skilled technician, a job that gave him pride, stability, and a new sense of who he was becoming.
I don't know have a journal me. The said man naba. I do it must me a Friday.
It was the first time Justice earned enough to dream. His pay rose, and with it, the hope of a better life for his family.
From many jeep papa. See, you know about the year. Obia ni waje biara inje papa there sisi ya central harmon bibia in harmon se yekoyi ne koyi no bibia in harmon dise ono obahama obabu kanwa obahama he so de o man botuma de etumpon ama obiara de aye free.
But 2 years without parliamentary approval brought all the progress to a standstill.
Zambano, you better than I may na on an Asia. May a medical. So that you know, you know, home my baby aqua. On with me, do almost Lasher, Mamma Fama. The Juanaziano, I have Bassa, the Prode, Oversanya, Ama, Ma, or mine is there, each me acquaint. So the me na, Ombado, don't want Nama, Oma, you to near Sede, your bread, Ankasa.
I'm Sarah Agri. I'm 20 years old, and Mr. Justice Agri is my father. He told us that they said they should come home, they will go again. They will start the work around somewhere 2025, but still the work is not. So they are still at home.
Every day, Justice stays home, waiting for a call that never comes. Is another day her daughter's hope for college drifts further away.
I completed school around 2023. Then because of money, financial issues, I couldn't further my education. But he's willing to take me to school when the work that they've told them they will come and start when it comes to me. I'll be going back to school.
Across the traditional areas hosting the project, community leaders say the delay are deepening frustration and hardship.
I cannot even describe the extent of my disappointment. It is very sad in Ghana here today. Such opportunity which has given chance to some people to be employed, and one day you are asked to go home because the ratification is not given. In fact, it increases the burden of families and government as a whole, and it is very serious issue that must be looked at.
If I tell you, people who come to knock at our doors for money, you'll be marveled. You get much better. When people below you get better. The situation now is that people below me are suffering. So they rather come to me with their troubles, medical bills, this. But I am aware if the turntable turns and they get employment, they will rather come to me, Nana, take this.
In Krampakrum, a trained technician of 8 years is back to the charcoal business he thought he had left behind.
There, Crana Maye. Mikata, you're Mikatamba. Says I make us a more flamin, then Miss Shabby Day. I tell you, my train you go a message. And Sana, may be crowd to 2 books or some Mancora. Says Edman, my young to our, me yes, you can 2 books Mancora do from school. Me yes, you come for home. Into our some young Casa. Me bomb blan o se mu hawa me sai dai ahwe nkola me do ma ba no
eduma ne ba hyese ne kwan ya me ni obobo hen mfantsema titire me abama me gina eduma ne bobo am no na modo ma me bushani na obi aso ne waje because omo yo bosom ana tourist kaka amanye no meja no me bobo ebushia me ebushani ya obi akonan.
Not everyone has been sent home yet. But for the few still working, survival hangs by a thread.
Yes, sir. And the best side will be here. It may be I'm about to my from John Ampa. Me, you go Atlantic Lithium. They are monitoring for mining area because of ratification on Manteaw. I'm going to say, you may not go for I don't be what the other will feel. This year, I'm paying for the break crack of you. By me living here, I'm going to cry. I'm not crying on my mother. The younger kind cry. These are no feet because of ratification of Manteaw. Rabbi there. Bob one may be 1. Yes, we have to waste best in your money be a job.
From 167 workers down to 62, more than 100 jobs gone. Atlantic Lithium employed geologists, lab technicians, drivers, electricians, and other support staff. But Parliament's delay in rectifying the mining lease forced operations to slag behind. At the time the lease was signed, global lithium price was about $3,000 per ton. Today, they have dropped sharply to around $850, raising fresh concerns about the project's economic viability. Lands and Natural Resources Minister Emmanuel Amakofeboa has now laid a revised agreement before Parliament 2 years after the project was first announced. This comes amid a renewed push by government to secure approval after an early attempt in the 8th Parliament failed to win the needed endorsement.
3 key areas has been looked at: the royalty rate adjustment, VAT deferral on capital inputs, and sub-on transshipment facility feasibility. These 3 areas were new areas that has been factored, and that called for us to look at the new lease. The new lease has been negotiated, sent to Cabinet for approval, and we are here in Parliament to get ratification in accordance with Article 268 of the 1992 Constitution. I accordingly refer the mining lease agreement, which is referred to as new, to the Committee on Lands and Forestry for consideration and report to the House.
We will not forgive them if they defer it again. My understanding is that with the processes it has passed, there shouldn't be any hula baloo about it.
The Ewoya lithium project promised 800 direct jobs, at least 2,700 indirect jobs, and a new industrial path. Now, that future waits on parliamentary approval.
You to the external Oya Abonku, Ewoya, Anuchi, Nkunku, or Totor Homa, where then Obaji, Hona Asa, where then, why made you know? Yes, no, the Omo Modiala, Mobo. In Henny Semishra, in his madam, on the Mihan. Now, you see the baby engineer, Edma, as you are there, ye bread.
2 years have passed. The machines are quiet. The jobs are gone. And hope sits in limbo. For families like the Agris, ratification of the Ewoya lithium project must not be politicized. it is their chance to live their dreams again. A Woyer's future, and the futures tied to it, now wait on a single choice. A choice that can restore dignity or confirm another broken promise. Emmanuel Jivanu, Joy News, Woyer, Central Region.
Thanks for staying with us here on The Pulse. We had to take that initial break because of some technical challenges we experienced, but we're back, yes, and we're ready for you. Now, if you just tuned in, earlier we played with you excerpts of our documentary, which we have been trailing for a while now, Ghana's mining lease, the lithium mining lease. It has been subject of controversy for a while now. It has stalled, in fact, for years. The people of that community have been pressing government to just ratify that deal and let's see it begin operation. But unfortunately, that has stalled. Now we're seeing a new administration take it up. We're delving into that this afternoon on The Pulse. Joining me right now is Ken Ashigbe, Chief Executive Officer of the Chamber of Mines. He'll be joining the conversation via phone as we just delve into that. We'll also be having an in-studio conversation. Thankfully, I have Dr. Steve Manteaw with me. He's a policy analyst. I also have joined the conversation a member of the minority. He'll be joining the conversation as well as we look at some of the key things that have come up in Parliament. If you have been monitoring what went on in Parliament, the minority have been raising concerns about this deal. There's a political angle to it, and so they'll be joining us for a conversation here on The Pulse. But I would like to start in studio, really, just to look at this whole deal and why it has stalled for so long. A man that has played a key role in this whole deal, in fact, he has deep knowledge into it. Joins me in the studio, Dr. Steve Manteaw. We appreciate your time. We've just been looking at this deal, and for residents in the Central Region, they wanted to kickstart. But we're looking at a deal that started years back. Unfortunately, we couldn't see Parliament ratify that deal. Let's start with your thoughts on that initial deal, even before we look at this new deal that this administration have put before Parliament.
Right. A careful look at the first lease agreement that was negotiated by the previous government tells you that we couldn't have gotten a better deal. If you look carefully at all the current leases that we have in the mining sector, it stands out as the best. And I had the occasion, I recall, to even caution the then chair of the Mines and Energy Committee of Parliament, Honorable Ata Achia, that before Parliament ratifies the deal, they will have to amend the law to accommodate the fiscal terms that have been negotiated in the contract. This was because our law prescribed 5% as royalty, but the then government negotiated for 10%, outside what the law prescribes. And to avoid any future future litigation, it was important to amend the law to accommodate the 10% that has been negotiated for, and to guide the negotiation of all future contracts. Again, you look at all the leases that we currently have in respect of all minerals. There is not a single lease in which Ghana has equity. What we have is what we call carried interest. What carried interest means and what the way it's treated is a share of profits, but it's not automatic. So it's paid to the state as dividends. Now, you know what happens? Dividends are determined in the boardroom. So a company may make super profits, but in the boardroom, they may decide that they want to plow back their profits into investments, either to expand the mine or undertake some other capital expenditure. When that happens, dividends are withheld and not paid. And so you find that in Ghana's mining sector, companies have operated for up to 10 years, sometimes more, without paying any dividend to the state. But were it the case that government had acquired equity, then, like in the oil sector, you will be entitled to a share of the production. You don't wait for dividends to be declared. So if you see what happens in the oil sector, we have what we call the carried interest, and then we have what we call the participating interest. The two put together becomes CAPI. And then we use that to claim a share of production. So in Jubilee, we have 13.64%. So whatever the companies produce every year, we become automatically entitled to a 13.4% share of the production. And we make capital cost contribution to the activities of the companies in respect of that project. Now, when you come to the mining sector, we don't have a single lease that actually allows us or entitles us to a share of the production. So we wait, as and when companies declare dividends, that's when we get something out of our carried interest. Now, look at the lithium contract, and you see that we have a participating interest for the first time in the history of our mining industry.
So from where you sit, it was a good deal.
It was a good deal.
But the minority, which was then the NDC, rejected this deal on the floor of Parliament. Now it has come back on the floor of Parliament. Now the majority, the NDC, have laid it before Parliament. But the minority now, the NPP, argues that this deal mirrors the same thing that they put before Parliament years back. What's your thoughts on that?
This is the price we pay for the kind of politics we do in this country. And I think the current minority have a case, but they negotiated for a contract that clearly was far better than any contract we had in the sector. You condemn it. So how then do you turn around when you come into power to water down the fiscal terms? But let me also explain that the global lithium prices at the time we negotiated for the lease, this Atlantic lithium lease, are not what they are today. There's been a substantial price collapse, throwing into question the viability of the project. So if you don't actually revise the project downwards, that project will economically not be viable. So there is a case for the revision of the fiscal terms. But I think the minority thinks is payback time because of the politics you played around the earlier contract that we negotiated. But at the end of the day, we need to put Ghana first.
Put Ghana first, you say. I'll come back to you in studio because just like you rightly say, there's a political aspect to this, and we'll be reaching out to the minority shortly here on the Pulse that will join the conversation. But I've just been speaking to Dr. Steve Manteaw. Let me bring in now Kenneth Akshibe. He is with the Chamber of Mines, just to get his initial thoughts on this whole deal. Ken, this deal has made its way to Parliament again, but then we've just been hearing from experts tell us that the climate is different now. The cost of lithium now on the global market is different. And so global prices have changed. Let's look at the relevance of this deal in this day and time. From where you see it, is it the way forward?
Much. And I think Dr. Manteaw has really set the page for it and stated the fact as is. You know, Ghana was positioned to have started the first lithium mine, but the delay that had occasioned. Now we have other countries. Mali just started a second lithium mine. Nigeria has done about 4 of it. You know, there are other countries that are going ahead of us. And so it is really important to note that if you look at the project as is, even before a single ton or a gram of lithium was taken out of the ground, Atlantic Lithium were the highest tax-paying company in the Manteaw district. And there were about 100 jobs that had been created, you know, prior to even starting the project. And most of those people have had to be, because of the delay in starting those jobs, have had to suffer, you know. And it's not only that. You know, the interesting thing is that there are some compensations that are supposed to be paid, but these have stalled. Then you also have the potential of the jobs, the training, and all of that that had to be done, you know, which all also have suffered. And so we all know the challenges that we suffered in, especially when it came to going to Parliament last year and all of that, and which has resulted in the delay of this particular lease being signed. And the implications for the people, the implications for us as a country, the fiscal benefits that we are all supposed to have gotten, the jobs that we should have created, and all of that have suffered. So for me, I think it's important that we expedite the ratification of this lease. The Honorable Minister for Land and Natural Resources had given his word that this was going to happen, and I am praying that, again, as Dr. Steve Manteaw said, we will put Ghana first, so far as this is concerned, because apart from the points that Dr. Steve Manteaw said, in terms of beyond the carried interest, the participation interest that is in this particular lease as well, there are other benefits that comes, in terms of the 1% that has been put into the agreements that were going to be used for corporate social investment and all of that. This is definitely a good lease. And you see, sometimes when we make the argument about the lease, we forget the number of years that prospecting and exploration had to take place before we're getting these things to happen. So it is important we get these things to start and then ensure that the price of lithium that had even tanked, we make sure that we revise the terms in such a way that it makes it viable as a business, so that everybody, including those who have given their lands, including government, including those who are waiting for jobs, including other contractors, and the local content arm of it who are also waiting to be able to start work, are able to do that, so that as a country we'll be able to benefit out of this. Bear in mind that this is lithium that there will be some concentration that is going to be done, all of which then adds value, all of which then retains a bit of value into this country. So we should work as quickly as we can to get this lease signed.
And so from where you sit, the current terms and condition needs to be reviewed just to reflect the new climate, financial climate. Now, let me bring in Francis Owusu. He's member of the Lands and Natural Resources Committee in Parliament on the minority side. Kenneth, stay with me. Let me bring in Francis Owusu at this point in time, just to get the concerns of the minority. This deal has been laid before Parliament by the Lands Minister, but you argue that it mirrors the same deal rejected in the 8th Parliament. You've been going through the document, so it's right for me to ask you, what are the details in this new deal that you feel is quite similar to that was rejected in the 8th Parliament?
Okay, thank you, Fosti, and then good evening to your listeners and viewers and my seniors also. My name is Francis Owusu. So that is the correction. Yes, we have received the document in Parliament, and the terms are not the same as the previous minister did or he signed. Now, when you look at Section 43 of the Act, it talks about the interest, as Dr. Steve Manteaw just said. It's 10, and then the previous minister revised it as to 13. Now, he was able to get under the Section 25 as amended by the company for the royalty to be 10. And now, as Doctor said, is 5. Now, in the current agreement, he has dropped it from the 10 up to 5. And then the participating interest, as Doc said earlier on, was around 6% or so. Now, that one does not have any expression within the new one as at now. So that is a big question we are going to ask about the minister in terms of the committee level. Where is it? And we also record that MAFE also paid some money to gain that interest. And for now, it doesn't have any reflection in there. What is it and where are we going to find it? And apart from this one, there are some breaches or some errors within the agreement which does not also conform with the current law. So we will go through that as its initial, like we just got it about last week, and then we are in the budget also. So we'll go through more, and then we see the areas and come out with the proper things which we're going to be affirmed for them to edit to flesh in so that the country can benefit. Now, when we are going to revise it down, for me, we should not touch the parameters which have the interest make it well. Now, you are saying that when you get like 10, you are going to get like, let's say, 1. And then the price change on the world market. The price change, yes, it has dropped. But it is the number you are going to mine. That is what you are going to pay off the interest. So for me, basically, there should be no change on that one. But we can give them other fiscal reduction, or let's say exemption, or maybe a cut. But these ones supposed to be in there same, and then other fiscals can also go down, or maybe write off or whatever for them to be in the system to mine. So basically, for ours on the minority side, we are not against the lithium to be mined in Ghana. But what we are saying is that the parameters we set at that time was well, and then we should go by that one. Even if we are going to revise anything, it should be upwards, but not downwards, as it's going to be on the side of, as doctor said, we should be more improving in terms of the new ones we are going to sign, but not coming down to the old system that many people are talking about. So basically, this is what the minority will render on much in terms of going forward, how we are going to come up with the full reading of the agreement as the minister has signed or brought to Parliament. And even the first one, the former minister Abuginapa brought, you were saying that one was not good and you are going to get a better. Now you are going to hide behind the current price to come and revise it low. For us, the current price, revising it low, cannot be the parameters set before, but other physicals can be go down or maybe eliminate or whatever for them to be in the system, but not the ones which have been on the threshold, or maybe basically we are going to use that one as a baseline for the new ones. So in a overview of the lithium agreement as have been brought to Parliament, this is my initial reaction on that.
And then what is your next line of action as a minority? Because should it come down to a vote in the game of numbers, you may be, at the losing end. But then you seem to have an argument that this current deal is not right for the country. What will be your next line of action?
Oh, as you know, we are going to go through the agreement theory and bring out the loopholes where we think that it is not good deal for Ghana. We will bring it up. We are going to also flash it out with them also to give them the alternative ways as to what we will do for the Ghanaian people to be happy that this mineral we are having now, we are going to mine it differently, and then we can get more as many people are calling for. Second, or the third one is that we will bring it, we will put it out. Yes, when it comes to vote, we will lose in terms of the numbers. But that does not also prevent us to put out the correct information for the whole country to know. And other professionals also, everybody will know that what we are saying is right, but the numbers is the one they are using it to do. And that will be on the political side, which doctor said we should think about Ghana first, but not the politics out of that. Yes, we can use this one for political, but we are not on the political side now. But we are talking about what Ghana should benefit from the lease mineral we have seen, and this is the first one we are going to start mining. And as you all know, it's going to create employment for the people in Ghana, not necessarily the politics out of that. But we are going to do our legitimate cause and putting it out, and then we know that many Ghanaians will side with us, and then if they are going to use their numbers, then people can cipher this one to be the political side as they are going to do. And mind you that whatever they were saying previously as they were a minority, they were talking about the deal was weak. So if that time it was weak, and now you have even delayed or abolished certain things within the same agreement, now the Ghanaians will be the best people to judge us on this aspect of the agreement.
Francis, stay with me. Let me come back in the studio, Doc. You've just been hearing from the minority. We've not had the opportunity to look at this new deal, but then he's given us details of this new deal. Because of the new climate, where we're having the prices of lithium drop globally from $3,000, now it's around $850. Is the new administration argument even fair that because of the change of the global pricing regime, we should then water down the previous deal?
Of our political settlement is what undermines Ghana's growth and progress. Clearly, the NPP is playing politics with this whole issue. And it's also fair to observe that the NDC in their time also played politics with the issue. The whole discussion seems to be driven by sentiments rather than data and science. Let me put on record that Zimbabwe is Africa's leading producer of lithium. And yet, all Zimbabwe gets in a year from its lithium is 400 million maximum. Sometimes last year they got about 350 million US dollars. Your gold, the gold we produce in this country, gives us in excess of $2 billion. With the rising gold prices, I won't be surprised it will end over and above $3 billion in a year. And yet we are happy to take 5% royalty for gold, which is more valuable than lithium, and condemn 10% royalty for lithium, which is worth less. So it looks like we're driven by sentiments. Everybody has pinned their hopes on lithium, but we are not going to get anything near what we get for gold.
So this is even dead on arrival.
Exactly. I think we are just being overly sentimental. And it is also because over the years we've not been able to unleash the development potential of our natural resources. And so many people are tend to see this as the last option, the last opportunity we have. But the value of the resource we are talking about is not the kind of mineral or the kind of value that would transform this economy. God bless this country with gold. We produced gold for over 100 years and ended up a highly indebted, poor country. If gold could not transform this country, and we are not even willing and ready to correct the mistakes in the gold sector, as we speak, we do not have any framework for managing gold revenues in this country. We are experiencing a boom. But where is the framework that makes us put something aside against a rainy day, just like we've done for oil? where in the event of earning much more than projected, we put the excess in a stabilization fund against a rainy day. We even haven't thought about correcting the mistakes in the mining sector. And then we go on a sentimental trajectory, fighting each other on a resource whose revenues or returns comes nowhere near what gold is giving this country. I think we need to set up and look at issues more objectively. Playing endless politics with this lithium deal is sending a bad signal to the international investor communities.
And that brings me to my next question. The international community, we're looking to them to get investment, especially in our extractive industry. With this kind of delay, all because of what you're pointing out, the political side of it, how would that affect investor confidence moving forward? And especially for the thousands of young people in the community looking forward to this deal to get jobs.
If you're an investor who has gone to borrow money to invest in the Awoya lithium project, first to undertake exploration and then acquire lands and begin to pay compensation and stuff like that, and you cannot proceed with your project, how do you repay the loans that you have taken to invest in this project? The signal you are sending to the international investor community is that Ghana is a hostile business destination. Now, if you look at what has happened in the oil sector, for instance, where Ghana has been to international arbitration several times, most of the times we've lost. Add that to what is happening with Awoya and see what image we are cutting for ourselves as a country. I do not hold or think that those who think we should get more for the lithium are unpatriotic. They are well-intended. But let's also remember that this country produced gold. We used to have the State Gold Mining Corporation, which was producing gold and posting losses. Who produces gold and posts losses? But it happened in this country. And therefore, we had to liberalize to bring private investors. And that is when Ghana's gold started returning some good dividends. Now, if you are going to deter foreign investors, then the option you have now is to return to the state where we were mining our own gold and posting losses. That's why I'm saying that we should move away from the sentiments. Let's look at the issue objectively. The NPP is right to want to pay the NDC back in their own coin, but it's a nation that suffers. So can we look forward and consider what is in the best interest of Ghana? You cannot maintain the fiscal regime that was negotiated by the previous government because of the collapse of lithium prices. The only way the project can go forward is to take another look at the financial modeling around the project and come to some accommodation around the fiscal terms that will make the project viable. And I think that will be my plea to both sides of the political divide, the NDC and the NPP. We're
already dealing with the impact of illegal mining because we're trying to extract gold. Now, when you add lithium to it, the concern is the ripple effect. Land reclamation, is that even part of our plans, and the damage this may have to our economy and our environment? Let's look at that. What's your proposal?
Those are the conversations we should be having. Look, lithium has become, or is stealing the attention now because of climate change. Climate change has become an issue because of greenhouse emissions, especially from the oil industry, fossil fuels. Now, you want to mitigate greenhouse emissions, and your solution is to do a transition from reliance on fossil fuels to what? Renewable energy. To undertake renewable energy projects, you need lithium and other critical minerals. Now, to extract lithium, it's bulk mineral. This is not the kind of mineral that you take from underground. So you are going to do what we call surface mining. You are going to encumber large tracts of agricultural lands, cut down vegetation, In the process, you will be compounding an already bad climate change situation, which you think you are going to mitigate. Look, as a result of this rush for critical minerals, we are going to open new frontiers in this country to open cast mining. Take Manteaw, for instance. Manteaw has never been known for mining. Pristine vegetation. Now, because of lithium, you are going to cut down all this vegetation to make way for lithium extraction. The concern for most Ghanaians should be how we manage the environmental fallouts of the project, such that the damage to the environment do not outstrip the benefits from the project. So I think the conversation is a bit misplaced. And I made the point earlier that even if you look at the financial returns from the project, this is not something that we should be splitting hairs over. But it's the beginning. And here we do have more potentials. And that is why we want to make sure that we get a good deal from the beginning. I do understand. I would recommend that when it comes to royalty, we should go for a sliding scale rather than a fixed rate. What a sliding scale does for you is that when market conditions change, you are able to now adjust your royalty receipts. Because when the conditions improve, it means you go up the scale, and when the conditions deteriorate, you go down the scale. That is more responsive to market conditions than fixing it at 5% or wherever.
Let me bring in Ken Ashibe here because he's quite passionate about the environment. And we're just looking at the ripple effect of this mining lease. Though we're pushing for jobs for the boys, but there are concerns about the environmental impact mining lithium would have. You've just been looking at the environment, looking at what we're dealing with illegal mining already with gold. How best do you think this administration should go about it with land reclamation and ensuring we protect the environment?
You see, when it comes to members of the Ghana Chamber of Mines, it's responsible mining is what we sign up to. And so, fortunately, Atlantic Lithium is a member of the chamber. Let me give you that there are some forest reserves that mining has taken place. If you go there now, you would not even know that there's been any mining going on there. So the whole issue of making sure that this is responsible mining and this is ensuring that the net effect of the mining that would take place would be positive is really the. Unfortunately, there's a lot of technologies that are coming on these days that ensures that the responsibility of mining is so responsible. And it is one of the critical things that you're finding out that increasingly stakeholders, shareholders are beginning to ask. So the whole issue of the ESG and sustainability of your group is really, really very. And so for the mind of Atlantic in terms the way the mining is going to be done, the way mining is going to be decided, the concurrent restoration that will be done, the fact that by the time the adapted mining, there should be a restoration of the environment. All of that are factors that will be taken into consideration. So I much with Dr. Manteaw that these are the situations that will be engaged. How do we ensure that this mining is done and done very quickly so that we are to, as far as the jobs that are created, the fiscal that is there, the benefits that are going to come to the community, we also make sure that in terms of the environment itself, there will be transgenerational equity in terms of our operation. That is really, really the focus. And again, as we talk about the whole issues about needing to put Ghana forward, it's also the fact that we need to have on the back of our mind that now there's a lot of research that is currently taking place to find alternatives to lithium. And so there's a lot of research going into sodium as an alternative to lithium. So as we delay this and other markets are also coming up and other people are launching, bringing up their lithium operations, it just also says to us ourselves that the potential benefit that would come from our lithium finds would be challenged. And the interesting thing is that beyond what is happening in Awoya, there are other finds that are also on the back of this. But if now this is not happening, what then would then encourage anybody else to say, let me come into this country, spend 16 years on doing exploration, and when it comes just to the find, there will be a challenge. And that's why for us at the Chamber, we're also happy that if you look at the revision to Act 703 that is taking place, one of the proposals that is going to be pushed to Parliament is also to be able to put some timeline around when these leases are done, ratifications are done. And so I am hoping that in that same spirit, we will be able to ratify this lease as quickly as possible and make sure that the other issues around responsible mining, making sure that it's environmental sustainable, we all work together to ensure that that is going to be done. But the only way you're going to be able to make sure that is going to happen is when you get these the lease ratified and get to the point where we should encourage governments that the participation interest and the equity that government needs to take. It is so important that we make sure that even when this lease is ratified, we should be looking beyond that to make sure that government would be able to put that investment in so that, as we all talk about and saying that Ghana should get a lot more out of this, this particular lease has the opportunity for us, as Dr. Manteaw has said, where now we would have, beyond the carried interest, we would have some participating interest in it. And so that we will put our skin in the game so far as this is concerned. And for me, those are the things that we need to do as quickly as possible to be able to ensure that we can bring some development into this, and then in the process of doing it, do it in such a way that it becomes a new paradigm. And then we also should be looking at how do we also make sure that Ghanaians also participate in other aspects of all of this in terms of the local content that is going to happen, where we have the local content, which is more manufacturing based than rather people just going to also import the services. How do we make sure that we're generating the products and services that would accompany this particular operation? The over $200 million that will be required in terms of constructing the mine. How do we ensure that Ghanaians will also be able to take a maximum out of that amount of money that is going to be invested in putting up the mine? How do we make sure that a lot of that value also stays, so that we don't only play in the physical, but we also play in the entire value chain that surrounds this particular point?
Thank you so much, Ken. Let me wrap up with Francis. A lot of issues have come up. One of them I would like to push to you, because you've been looking at the new agreement. Does it state anywhere in the new agreement plans for land reclamation?
Yes, land reclamation also is a clause also in the new agreement. So that one, the steps as to how the company will reclaim the land is also in there.
Okay.
Let me also
do you care to just read bits for us, just so that we're on the same page? Because since you have the privilege to look at the document and we don't, can you just read to us some of the key provisions there? Because we're focusing on environmental effect of this deal. Should it even be passed by Parliament?
In fact, the document is not in front of me now.
Okay.
But I have gone through it, and then what I'm telling you, all of them are in the agreement. So later when it comes out and all these ones, the other parameters you all will know and then see. But what I want to also remind Dr. Manteaw is that we all know that we have been mining the gold for some years ago and all that. That was why the management of the revenue or the royalty, the previous government brought a legislation of the MIF. And the MIF is now currently collecting all the mineral royalties from the mines. And then in the act, it was going to invest again into some of them, like some other aspect of the exploration and then the mining as well. So if you recall, it was the MIF, through MIF funds, that the previous government was able to acquire the equity stake in this lithium current one as we are talking about. Now, the new administration coming in has come with a legislation to amend the act, and they have taken 80% of that fund to the consolidated fund. So now MIF is there, but as to how they can get a lot of money to invest again into the mine, to buy some equities and all this one from other mining companies for the country to have more, it's now no more there. But before, it was there, and I think as at last year, they were having about over $1 billion or so in the account. So now, the change has come currently. But before, we knew that, or we know that at the time, there were some errors. That is why we started from in 2020 to bring that act. So the current state we are talking about is having the royalty to be at the 5 or pay as you go will not be a big issue for us.
Yeah, that's the concern Dr. Steve Manteaw has raised.
What we are talking about,
if you allow me, Mr. Francis, just briefly, that's the concern he has raised, that in this deal we're pushing before Parliament, now we should look at moving forward, not giving a fixed rate, really, to the percentage of royalties we will be receiving because of the dynamics of the whole lithium global prices.
Yes, if we do that, then it means that other mines, which they are also having the same agreement we have gone with them, then it means that those ones can also come up with those aspects of the provision. But what I'm saying now is that we need to move forward at a point. And that point was the last year in terms of the agreement. As you rightly mentioned, that was the best agreement so far. So for me, the stake we had at the time was not free. It was not free for the country. It was through MIF, and then MIF bought that one. So now, if you are going to revise that one to delete it from the current agreement, where is that money going to go? How are we going to treat that money that MIF also bought in at the time? That is a concern that we are raising. But as I said, we are going to come out with the detailed reading of it, and where we think that it's not appropriate, we will put it up if the minister agrees with us to change some of them or to change all of them as we are going to revise it. Fine. But if they are also not going to mind and use the numbers to do away with it, then we are all here to see. But for us,
thank you so much.
Mining the lithium is not a problem for the minority as at now.
Thank you so much, Francis. Let me just wrap up with Dr. Steve Manteaw in the studio. Whilst he was making his point, you wanted to come in. You have your own thoughts about how we should proceed moving forward.
Yes, I think your question was about environmental management.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say that whatever it is, the environmental aspects of the project will be subjected to our Environmental Authority Act as provided for. And EPA as an institution will be responsible to ensure the efficient management of the environmental fallouts. We have a process. You first undertake an environmental impact assessment. The law requires that you submit a report to a stakeholder public hearing and indicate how you are going to mitigate all the potential environmental fallouts and let the community have a say. If they endorse it, if they approve it, you get your seal of approval, and then you get your environmental permits to proceed with the mining. So there are lay-down processes that I believe Atlantic Lithium, if they haven't started, definitely will follow. But let me say that we seem as a country to always major in the trivial and minor in the substantive. The committee that I chair, the Ghana Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative, commissioned a study to see where Ghana can optimize its returns from the mining sector. So we interrogated the typical spend of a mining company and realized that the greatest value was in local procurement. It was not for nothing that Ghana passed a regulation requiring over 56 items in the mining sector to be procured locally. Now, if we can take advantage of even half of what is provided for in local content in terms of building the manufacturing capability to supply to the industry, we can forget about taxes. Because we'll get much more money than from the fiscal terms negotiated in the contract. But what is currently happening, and I'm sure the chamber can confirm, most Ghanaians take the contract sometimes to supply uniforms, footwear, something as basic as bolts and nuts, activated carbon, and they head to China and other Asian countries to go and procure them and bring it in. Now, by that, you are only adding to the cost, operational cost of the company. Because if it comes to procuring from China and other Asian countries, I'm sure the companies can do it better. But the rationale for compiling that list and mandating that those items are procured from the Ghanaian economy is to help build the manufacturing capability such that we are able to set up industries, to employ our teeming youth, to manufacture mine inputs to sustain our mining industry. And yet we had in this country a one district, one factory industrialization program that was in no way aligned with the local content list in the mining sector. So we're not able to develop the manufacturing capability to supply to the industry. We continue to import and put pressure on our local currency. The only companies that I can cite who are taking advantage is Interplast, Camus, and a few other companies manufacturing abrasive material, grinding media, and stuff like that. The rest of the inputs are all imported. And this is where we need to look at. This is where Parliament ought to focus its attention. How does Ghana position itself under this new contract, the lithium contract, to take advantage, value addition in terms of what to do with the byproducts of lithium extraction, the ceramics and other opportunities that we have? We are not thinking about these. We're only thinking about the fiscal. That is in the character of the typical Ghanaian. Get a taxi, and they make sure that before, when they get a taxi, they forget about everything else and live on the the returns from the operations of the taxi, so that when the taxi breaks down, there's no money to fix it, and we pack it on blocks. Because we don't major on the very things that will transform our economy and our lives.
So as we wrap up, really, we cannot turn a blind eye to the fact that there's a political angle to this. And you were pushing earlier that we should put Ghana first. How do you propose moving forward we depoliticize this whole thing and put the Ghanaian people at the forefront?
I think sometimes when you are wrong, it doesn't hurt to admit you are wrong. I think the MPP is peeved because of the reaction of the NDC to the initial deal they negotiated. Acknowledging that we were wrong, I'm pretty sure we'll get the MPP to come along. So I think that sometimes we need to mend bridges rather than bend them.
Thank you so much, Doc. We appreciate your time.